I'm working on the historical theses project, which is digitising selected theses which are nominated by the academic departments in the school for their historical significance. So preserving them for posterity because of the way they've affected the development of thought across the departments in the school. It's a small side project really, so it's not a mass digitisation project, so it's just selecting historically important theses for posterity as opposed to blanketly digitising everything.
So we've gone out to departments and we've asked them to nominate the most significant or influential theses from their history and explain a little bit about why they've made those selections, and then we're going to go ahead and digitise them and make them available digitally from a repository held in the library.
I think almost everyone has been entirely positive who's responded and wants to put their work up and want to get a wider audience.
The project is also about the history of LSE itself, how the department's formed, how the research that was done here helps contribute both to the school and to the wider research environment.
With most of the items that we will digitise, as digitisation works at present, probably about 90 to 95% of the information that people will want about an object or a book can be obtained from that digital image of it.
If you're looking at a collection of statistics at the LSE library, that would be easy enough to digitise, and the information held there is translated relatively well between the print version and the online version. If you're working somewhere at an art school library and you have printed collections of books or photographs or original drawings and you try and digitise that, the actual product is going to be different.
I think there will for some time remain a kind of 5% of information which is actually about the physical object. It's about the way it's bound up, it's about the way in which it was published. Is it a big book, a small book? What are the typefaces? What are the things about the paper you can see in the original that you can't see?
The physical properties of the item won't be preserved online in the same way that you will have in print, so people are always going to want to have a combination of both collections.
And that for a small number of researchers there will continue to be a need to actually see and handle the original item. There is no real guarantee of long-term digital preservation, by which I mean the kind of long-term preservation that we see in something like the Lindisfarne Gospels or perhaps even earlier items.
The durability of physical items, of parchment, papyrus, paper, printed books, their storage and preservation has been demonstrated over hundreds of years. Digital material is actually far more fragile than that. It comes down to preserving software environments, hardware environments, and ironically down to physical items again, such as hard drives and physical tapes. And I think the durability of those is still in question. Half-life of certain physical storage media, for example optical CD-ROMs, hard drives, is much, much shorter than the average life expectancy for a book. And I think until some of those issues have been addressed, then digitised collections cannot really serve as complete surrogates, although work is moving in that direction towards the really long-term preservation of digital collections.
And I think that's where there's a key role for libraries. Google, the internet, great for dissemination, even despite its metadata problems, great for finding things. But if we'd let bookshops preserve everything in the past, we wouldn't have a tenth of what we now have. And I think it's that kind of role in the terms of managing, storing, and actually having a really long-term commitment to the information and to the items that will make libraries stand out in the future.
About the role of the librarian of the future is that they're going to be selecting the most relevant and the best resources for people to use. At the moment they work with departments to select printed materials. I can't see that will change massively with digital resources.
Historically there's a trend towards the library as a gateway to information, and you can see that in a historical movement away from printed materials into electronic resources such as electronic journals and more recently electronic books. I think that trend is likely to continue and information will become more available digitally, and the specialisms of the library will then revert to curatorial expertise. I suspect that the curatorial expertise will still be brought to bear on the digital materials, but less based around a traditional patron supply kind of model. The expertise will remain around understanding information, ways of discovering information, and digital literacy, and that will be a very strong core skill for librarians to have, as well as the curatorial expertise around maintaining digital information and making it available.